How's it going, everybody? We are back on the 540 Show. As always, I'm with my guy, Thomas.
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
And I'm Ryan, and today we welcome to studio the former Spotsylvania County School Board member, someone who is always helping out in the community, just an all-around awesome person, and is now running for the 88th District Delegate of Virginia, Miss Amanda Blaylock.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
So, have you been really busy with all this campaigning and stuff going on, or no?
You have no idea. We kicked off full throttle about 2 weeks ago, and once that happens, it's a 24/7 job.
I imagine.
Yeah.
So, is it busier than it was when you were a school board member, or is this busier? What would you say?
This is busier as far as campaigning. School board, I had several elections, but I was coming as the incumbent, which is easier to do, and I didn't have opponents usually. So this time is much harder. Getting your name out there, my district's bigger, a lot more people to represent, so it's a little harder this time.
Is it fun? Is it?
Oh, this is my calling. This is what I do.
That's right.
That's awesome. So why'd you want to get into this? I have to know why. Like, what made you say, "Hey, I want to run for the delegate"? Like, where did that come from?
Oh, someone posted on my social media a couple weeks ago, Amanda, I remember saying you were running for delegate about 10 years ago, and I did. I have my goals in life and things that I want to do, and it came to me very early that I was born with a civic heart, and to me, just doing for others is truly what makes me happy. That sounds cliche, but it honestly is true. For me, everyone has what makes them tick, and for me, it's being out in the public. I'm very comfortable in the public, and I think that has served me well in the past. So delegate was something I was interested in because I could affect change on the state level. I could start pushing laws and making change for more people, a broader scale, and I know that I have what it takes to do it, so I was ready to put my name in the hat. After some successful years on the school board, I thought I had done my time there. Things are going great at the schools. I'm very proud of Spotsylvania County Schools, and I'm ready to go.
That's awesome. Yeah, we think that you got the quality to do it too.
Absolutely.
I think if anybody's got a shot, it's definitely you.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to working with you. So, so you're big in the schools. I know that's one of your things of the campaign. What is? I saw you really want to work with the zoning.
Yes.
Can you explain zoning to me and what all that is?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up. I honestly didn't know what you were going to talk about first, but that is something no one's really asked me about yet, and that's such a hot topic. In fact, who I am trying to unseat right now, he and I share very different views. Districting is what they call it, and when you work against redistricting, it is not a fair and equal vote. What it does is it keeps your voters the same. It never changes who's voting for you. So let's say you're winning and you're an incumbent and you have a certain party that just votes for you every time because you have a D or an R by your name. You will always win, and we don't see change as a society and as people, and we certainly don't see growth in the minority community or the English as a second learners. They get no shot because everything stays the same. So I'm advocating to redistrict and change that. So when districts are voting, it is a true representation of all of us, not just a certain type of person or a certain ethnic background or a certain economic status person. It's all of us that are represented by everyone.
Absolutely. And how often are these districts divided up? Is it once a year or once every couple of years?
Well, that depends. Lawmakers decide all of that. And so it hasn't been. In fact, there was a failed attempt here several years back. And again, that is one reason delegate, going back to your question, is what I'm running for, is because the person who I am trying to unseat strongly fought against redistricting.
I think I remember that,
yes,
when they were about to redistrict and there was all that going. I do actually remember that.
A lot of community entities got together, and some were for it, some were against it, but in the end, we did not redistrict, and that's something that in my term that I do plan on winning, I'm going to change. I'm going to really advocate for that. Change is harder than it sounds because you are one person, but I think, it shows that it can happen. There was things that took me almost 10 years on the school board to accomplish. I may have started, I remember, a program I was working for the day I was elected. We didn't get it until this year.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
You just don't give up.
Persistence, yeah.
Persistence.
That's what it takes.
Exactly what it is.
So the 88th District, that's part of, I saw Fauquier County, Spotsy, Stafford, and part of Fredericksburg.
Yeah, and in Fredericksburg, it's almost the entire city. There's just a few streets I don't have. It's just a
well, hopefully not my street.
No, I think we're good. I think you can vote for me. But no, I have most of the city of Fredericksburg.
Absolutely. And so the election is November the 7th. The last day to register is October 16th.
And that is something I'm glad you brought up, Thomas, because because I want people to register to vote. And,
Absolutely.
And you know why I'm here. I've known y'all for years. And I think it is your generation and your age group that needs to make voting a priority.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's where change can happen. And just register.
It's very big in people our age to not be as informed as maybe they should be, or, to go ahead and make that step, register to vote. And that's something that we definitely want to advocate to you guys to get out there, register to vote.
That's right.
We're learning too. I didn't know much about what a delegate was, so I researched when I found out you were coming. I've actually learned a lot and everything like that. So that's really exciting. The stuff that you can put your hand in and change and everything like that. That is really awesome.
Yeah, and you look at the change that can be affected by one person that's holding a position for delegate. So you want to make sure that your voice is heard. And I couldn't agree more. Register to vote, even if you're not voting for me. Exercise your right to vote.
Absolutely.
I don't care who you're voting for. That's just something that's important in general.
Right.
But, it's hard to complain if you're not getting out there and voting and trying to affect change. But especially millennials, we have got to make it more on their radar and something that they think about when they turn 18. Register to vote and know that November 7th is around the corner.
Absolutely.
And we actually, this is something I think you'd like to hear. We actually know a bus driver collectively who said that when you left being a school board member, things actually got harder for him, and he really appreciated everything you did for him while you were a school board member. So that is just firsthand, some of the people that you've
I mean, he
touched.
went on a 5-minute rant about how well he was taken care of, how like all the bus drivers, felt like they had everything they wanted and needed, and then he said as soon as she left, things just started to stink. Is exactly what he said. So,
well, I think that when I became a school board member, I'll be the first to admit, because I held it for a long time. The first year, I felt almost like a deer in a headlight because there were some things I just couldn't believe I was hearing. There were some things I was seeing, and then I had to sit down and buckle down and decide I'm not going to let it continue.
Yeah.
And I sort of expanded, and bus drivers were a big part of that, and cafeteria workers, and I looked at the whole picture, and one thing I was noticing is everybody's voice needs a place to be heard, and there's nothing too small and there's nothing too big. So no matter how small the issue was or how big the issue was, I addressed it. And I hope I answered everybody, but something about being a politician, we're known for talking and all of that, but you have to be a good listener. And really what they were telling me that first year I was elected is no one listens to us. We're the ones in the trenches, and whether it be a bus driver I was talking to, a cafeteria worker, or a teacher, or a paraeducator, they wanted to be heard, and then they wanted results. And so if it was something I could do, I did it. And if it was something I couldn't do, at least I explained it to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So at least you know that you're going to get your voice heard and results are going to come from you. So that's awesome, and that's really reassuring to hear also that you're a person of your word, because that's so
Absolutely.
It's so hard to find people like that these days. So that's awesome,
especially if you're holding a position where your boss is the people.
Right.
I would always remind people when they would, talk to me about I would say, no, my boss is who I'm walking through Target with. That's who I'm walking through the football game with. That's who I'm working for. You're working for children and taxpayers. And that will continue even as a delegate. Public education is one of my platforms, but this does allow me a platform to really expand and listen to more and do more.
That's awesome. So once again, we are in studio with Miss Amanda Blaylock, who is running for the 88th District Delegate, and she's running as an independent. I see something really cool. I looked on your website, blaylock4va.com, if you guys don't know. You're really big into mental illness and helping the kids with that. Would you like to expand on that a little bit?
Absolutely. This is something that stems from, personal experiences with family or friends, and watching the high schoolers, the elementary school kids, and adults going through this over the years. It really stood out to me that there isn't not only enough support, enough beds, just the simple nuts and bolts of it, but what I really noticed is there's a stigma. No one wants to talk about it.
Right.
You think when someone says they're mentally ill, because that could be a whole form. It could just be, it's not, I shouldn't say just, but it could be depression, just something very serious like a suicidal. And that's what I meant by something more acute that you need to address immediately. And there should not be a stigma. If I said today to you, I have diabetes, so I take a medication to keep me balanced, you would not think twice about it.
Right.
But if someone were to walk up to you and say, I suffer from bipolar disorder and I'm taking a medication, people immediately judge and they immediately put that stigma. That is something I want to remove in public schools and in society. So if someone is dealing with something, they're not sure what's going on or they need help, they don't feel so bad about getting help, and the help's available to them at a cost they either can afford or that we can offer to them for a service that is free through public assistance.
So, and that's really important because, you know, the kids going through schools, it's very hard for them to, you know, deal with a lot of the teenage problems these days, you know, with social media being so prevalent. You know, you can have issues in the classroom, then those issues can go home and then come back the next day. But you know, it's really hard to watch young people have such a tough time. You know,
they do. I mean, we've never discussed this, but I could look at you right now and say, I guarantee you, when you were in high school, you've known somebody who was cutting, someone who was depressed, someone who talked to you about feeling suicidal. You probably even known an adult in your life that is dealing with somebody. And we haven't talked about that. So think about how relevant mental health discussions are today. But yet, for some reason, we still hide and we still pretend it's a bad thing to say, I'm struggling. I'm not having a good day. I need help, or I need medication to balance my chemical imbalance or something. It's okay to say that. So that's one of my platforms. And there are so many areas under that I want to work on, whether it be getting more beds that are available quicker, more public assistance for people who need something really quickly, places that are suicide hotlines that someone can get to. I mean, I can guarantee you both of you have been touched by suicide in some way.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
And in my own family, my grandfather, he was actually my uncle, but I called him my grandfather. He committed suicide years ago, and to this day, our family is still in shock and struggles from it. And again, he was depressed.
Yeah.
And so even though none of us saw it coming, you look back, and he was a big, tough guy. He probably
just
didn't
didn't
feel
expect it,
comfortable saying that I'm feeling this depressed.
That's awesome. So I really think that's key. And that when I read when I read that, I was like, wow, that's really cool that she's going to try to
really want to change.
So something on a little bit of a lighter night, switch it over. What would you say is your favorite part about this area? You've been in this area for a while. Like, what do you love about the Fredericksburg area? Because that's why we started this show.
People.
There's no doubt, the people. You know what I love about people from Fredericksburg, Spotsylvania, Stafford, Fauquier, and all the areas that I represent is that I have been through some tough things. I got very ill a few years ago. This community is amazing. You know, this reminds me, I was born and raised in the deep south of Mississippi, and it reminds me of that in the sense that if you need something, they'll give you the shirt off your back. So it's definitely the people that keep me there. I mean, it's beautiful. It's obviously a beautiful town, and Fredericksburg in itself is a great touristy town, but that's not it for me. It's the people. I just love the people here.
Awesome, yeah. And there's people like you, people like us. Everybody's here together. Yeah, it's just like you coming in to help us out and hopping on the show. So that's awesome. We want to know, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What is the goal that you have? And someone like you who they've been moving on, that you seem to be on the upward slope. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I see myself in 5 years still in Richmond, affecting law, changing law, and making things better every day. Still working with the public, still talking to people, still doing things like this. And you never forget where you came from.
Yeah.
And that's why we're all here together.
Right.
Yeah.
No matter what, we'll always be there for each other because y'all were students when I was a school board member. And that was something I was very proud of, is that my students knew their school board member. I wanted that to be how I ran my platform. And that kind of worked, is that I wanted to reach out and let students know that you can talk to me too. You can send me questions and answers too. So I see myself sort of in the same place on a bigger scale. I see myself in Richmond still working, but you know, not much different than I plan on being in about a year.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's what we hope so too. That's what we are definitely hoping for. Thank you once again for coming in, and we are in studio with Miss Amanda Blaylock, who once again is running for the 88th District Delegate, and she's running as an independent. Who are you going up against?
I am going up against the Republican Mark Cole, who's the incumbent, and there is a Democratic gentleman running and a Green Party gentleman running. I'm glad you brought up I'm an independent, because that is kind of unique to me. I'm the only woman in the state of Virginia running as independent.
Woo!
And it's good, because I think it definitely explains who I am. It talks about, if you think about an independent, it's someone who is willing to cross party lines for common sense. I consider myself common sense oriented. I'm going to make choices based off common sense and the betterment of the community and the mass of the people. I think more politicians should do that. And unfortunately, we have a lot that are married to parties, and they, will just go along party line because it's the way to go. You will definitely see me crossing party lines on votes. The downside of being an independent, I'll be very honest, is if you're running as a Democrat or you're running as a Republican, you get that backing of financial.
Right.
So I am way behind the 8 ball financially because I don't get that first push from the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. But that's okay. I've never done anything conventional, so I don't plan on starting today.
Don't plan on starting that now. So who would you say would be your target market of voters that you would like to see?
Well, I really feel like I have a very broad target market, but it's no denying that millennials are I'm pretty strong in that area just because I truly feel like I just remember what it's like to be that age. And I also feel like that even my age group, I feel like I target kind of everyone. There's really no one I can't relate to. My raising being in the deep South and the farms and, growing up riding horses and things, I feel like I really relate to a rural voter as well.
Okay.
I certainly understand their needs because that's exactly who my family still is. My father lives in the middle of the woods. My mother does too. My whole family does in Mississippi. And I go back there visiting. And so that's something that's never come out of your system. You don't forget where you came from. And so I think a rural voter is definitely someone that I can relate to as well. But me being a suburban mom, I've got that too. And then you have the millennials that I definitely connect with.
You do great with the millennials from back with being a school board member.
Yep.
Millennials want their information and they want it now. And you were always real good. I saw it. Letting them know when school was canceled, when their graduation dates are going to be. And I think if you keep that up, then the millennial voters are definitely going to want to vote for you.
I just got to get them to register and get out to
Well, that's our job. We're going to register. It's October 16th, right?
October 16th is the deadline to register. Make sure you get out there and register to vote.
So we're actually going to be out at, a lot of Massaponax football games this year. And one big thing that I was going to take upon myself and go ahead and put that on my partner here was to get out in the community, actually talk to people about registering to vote, and more specifically for you coming up this November, because, like I said, it's been. A lot of people our age just don't. It's like they don't know.
Look, if I'm registering,
don't
you can register.
Absolutely.
It's that simple.
Absolutely. And we honestly, we want to try to figure out how to make Fast Track a place where people can register to vote, because we get a lot of traffic of people coming in and out, even personal friends that just want to come in and see how we're doing. And these are all great opportunities to, get them registered and to vote.
I love that, because when they hear it from someone like you, that will make them do it. If I say it, they just think, oh, she's Amanda, she's into politics. But they hear it from you and realize the importance of making a difference. And being I was both of your school board members. If you remember, I don't know that you would have known another school board member.
No.
You want to vote people in that are willing to listen to you.
Yeah.
And I had SCA presidents calling me and saying, hey, this is something that bothers us about school. Can you, I would take it to the superintendent, and we would sit down and have meetings. There was many meetings we had where we brought in students that had emailed me or tweeted me. And I did. You're right about one thing. I learned real quick what they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, well, if I'm going to get to the kids, I got to get to Twitter. And then if I'm going to keep them, I have got to tell them what they want to hear.
Oh, yep.
Which is their information fast.
Yep.
And someone, I had shared this with Thomas before. It was so funny. This kid one time tweeted me, and he tweeted on his own, but he tagged me, and he had a split screen. And he goes, because he called me Baylock, the way Baylock tells the parents we're closing, and the way Baylock tells the kids. And he screenshotted my Facebook post, which is mainly the parents, and he screenshotted my Twitter post. And sure enough, I didn't even realize that I talked to you all completely different. When it was the parents, I gave very detailed that we would be closed. I gave the date. I gave the employee code. I gave, all of these other things. And with Twitter, I was like, hey, we're closed.
That's all you need.
That's all y'all wanted to hear.
Yep.
Yeah, that's huge, though, being able to connect on those different wavelengths, whether it's older or younger, and being able to communicate is such a big thing, because I feel like the lack of communication nowadays from the older generation is bigger than it's ever been right now. So that's really cool that you can connect,
and
both of them.
Politicians need to quit trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
Y'all never expected perfection out of me.
No.
Just do what I say, follow through,
Absolutely.
answer the questions, but no one expects perfection out of us. And I think a lot of times they're so, stuck, and they're so cold looking, they're almost unapproachable looking, and that is not who we are anymore. We're a society that's a very multicultural, all different backgrounds, and it needs to be a little bit more, I'm not saying relaxed as an unprofessional, but we need to be able to approach everyone as politicians. And I think when I was growing up, I always felt like politicians were definitely gentlemen.
Sure.
I don't remember having hardly any women to look up to or follow. And they were older. And I did not ever feel, I don't even think I could tell you who my school board member was or who my mayor was when I was growing up. And I think now it's not just me. You're seeing a whole another type of politician where we're trying to be more interactive and more approachable. So when we get to the big days in Richmond where we're voting and making change, we have our pulse on you. We know what you want. We know what you need.
Right.
A lot of times people won't come to me until it affects their pocket or it affects their household.
Right.
And that's fine. But that's what I need to know. And I feel like that one thing that helped me as a school board member is I was very, very clued into the community. I kept a finger on the pulse of every one of y'all. And a lot of that was having people throughout the community calling them and saying, hey, what's your neighborhood saying about this? I had about 4 or 5 people I would call. And I'd say, hey, what's your kids saying about this about school? And I would listen, and that's how I would get a lot of my information. So,
well, what's the best way to contact you or just interact with you, whether it be in person or online?
Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And I'm going to be honest with you, my cell phone is everywhere. I'm a texter. You can call me. I am one of those politicians that you can truly call. It doesn't bother me a bit. I will never tell you, how did you get this number? I publish it. In fact, that's something we're going to add to my website. I told my designer, I said, I want to have a picture of me holding my phone going, call me.
That's awesome.
Because I do. I am so accessible, but I say the social media because that might be the best way to send me a message and say, here's my number. But feel free, my cell phone number, I think you can even Google it.
Yeah, we'll get all that information. We'll post it right on the screen of this interview, and they'll be able to see all of that.
Text me. Nothing is off limits. I'm very open. And to be honest, people don't abuse that. I've had myself public. They know where I live. They know my cell phone for 10 years. And I may have had 1 or 2 times.
You also show up. I know a lot of kids would ask you to come to, a dance or a football game or a soccer game. And I felt like you were always there for showing up and supporting. So that's something I know that will help you moving on to this, that you show up and you do what you say you're going to do. So that's awesome. I
did. I showed up to a lot of little plays and stuff, and nobody even knew I was there. But it was for one particular kid that said, will you come watch me? And I'm going to be honest with you, though, that's fun for me. That's kind of my fuel. That's sort of that was my paycheck. You don't make money in politics at all, and that's not what you do this for. There is no one who's willing to put their life in the public spotlight like you have to put it in. Expose yourself and then fight for people like this for money. It's not about that. And so I did show up, and I still would show up. That was fun for me, though. I was telling Thomas, I just didn't usually accept the prom request.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. I know that you've had some prom requests come in. So
I thought I'd just show up at the prom in general instead of
as a chaperone.
That's funny,
right? I kind of kept it as a chaperone,
right?
But that was always fun, and that's the good thing that they felt comfortable enough to kind of cut up with me on that level. But then you would get some serious questions. It was funny. I had this one student years ago from one of our schools, and they were one of those that was always retweeting me or putting my head on a Jesus or something. And I had a lot of fun with this person, but there ended up being something that they really needed my help with. And I got a private message saying, hey, this is going on at school. Who do I go to? And I was able to help them with that. And so what I've learned about millennials, and especially kids that are in high school, is connect with them so they feel comfortable. Then when they've got a problem, they feel comfortable coming to you.
Gain their trust. And that's all of it. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you coming in studio with us. It was so awesome having you on the show. I've learned so much just from sitting in, so I know the listeners are going to learn. And once again, we had Miss Amanda Blaylock in studio. Get out and make sure you register to vote by October 16th. We will put all this information up with the interview. Thomas, I'll kick it over to you for the final closing thoughts.
Well, I just, same as my buddy here, just thank you so much for taking the time. I know that you're so extremely busy, so you were able to make the time to come see us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'll be back. I loved it. In fact, I'm going to be working with you all in the future because I'm going to do some podcasts.
Oh, yeah. We'll have plenty more of Miss Amanda Blaylock and the 540 Show and Fast Track Studios.
You're going to be tired of me by the time this election is over.
No way.
Oh, no. We can never be tired of you.
No way. But thanks for listening, everybody, and I hope you have a great weekend. Peace.